you spoke about the natural state of man. I was curious if we could apply the Article 3 principle to community courts, because I don't think the U.S. system has jurisdiction to say community courts cannot be convened as long as they follow due process. And the reason I say that is because I've studied history, and I found cases in 1909 or something like that. I found one case in Colorado where a district judge and an individual got together, and they basically jumped the guy's claim. And the community came out and just set chairs up under a tree, and they convened a community court, and they made a ruling, and they were proven to follow due process, and they marched it back in and said, we've made a ruling, and the district court judge says, I accept your ruling. And the guy got his land back.
Yeah, like I said, it was like I said, if you look at any of the history of the United States, especially like Alabama, I studied that a lot. And I think they originally met under the great oak. That was the great oak tree, or it was the great elm, or something like that down there in Alabama. That's where they held court. So people are always looking for these big, fancy marble buildings, and that's not what it's all about. That's what I say to people. Somebody asked me that today. They called me up today, and they said, do I go to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania? They also have something called King's Court of Pennsylvania. I said, look, you're just going to establish a court of claims in whatever public building where the locals call a courthouse. I don't care what the name of the courthouse is. It could be Bob Spencer's courthouse. It could be Jesus Christ's courthouse. It could be Supreme Court. I don't care. Any place that you guys call your local courthouse, all you're going to do is bring in your court into that public building, and you're going to call it a court of claims. You're just going to bring in a court. You're going to bring in your courtiers, and you're going to call it a claims court. You're going to say, I'm making a claim. I am in, and my court is now in this public building, known as a courthouse. See, because people are getting sloppy, and they say, well, we're going to go to court. It's like, well, you mean you're going to bring your court into a courthouse? Is that what you mean? It's like, no, we're going to court today. Well, you're going to a courthouse today, right? Yes. Well, what form of court are you going to be in within that courthouse? So there's a difference between a word court and courthouse. First of all, it's got 5 extra letters in it, so that should be a given. That it doesn't mean something different. But people are just sloppy, So, and like I said, this Article 3 stuff, all you could do is say, look, I'm coming in to this public courthouse. I'm going to be filing a claim, which if you compare it with an Article 3 court, it is very similar in that, and then you could explain what you believe the similarities are. But to walk in and say it's an Article 3 court, you're not crazy, but you're just going to get a whooping because you have no idea how to interpret an Article 3 court. You didn't create the Article 3 court. You have nobody with any first-hand knowledge of what an actual Article 3 court is. You do not have the person who created the document of what an Article 3 court is. You cannot be sworn in and testify that is what an Article. All you're doing is playing a guessing game with what an Article 3 court is. It's left up to interpretations by the Supreme Courts. But like I said, if Barack Obama had all his Supreme Court appointees, obviously if it was full of Hillary Clintons, she'd say an Article 3 court means this. If you had Ronald Reagan appointees, obviously they'd say Article 3 courts mean that. So I don't care about anybody's freaking opinion is on an Article 3, Article 4, Article 69, Article 70. I don't care. All I'm saying is the Lentz court is now present in this public courthouse, and if you compare that with an Article 3 court, and in that it is similar because, A, the magistrate is independent of the tribunal. B, the tribunal consists of a wrongdoer, prosecutor.
My question is then, once you get a judgment the reason I was going to first bring up, I found in the Nebraska statutes that the courts are to receive any judgment that follows due process. It says any judgment that follows due process. But I thought that was quite interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, there's like somebody was saying before, there's unlimited forms of courts. So as long as they were held in a proper manner, according to the rules of that court, the state. It's like that's. Yeah, what's the? I can't hear that. What's the scratching, Angela? You have any idea?
I don't know. I don't hear it.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let me just finish. It's based upon like the full faith and credit clause. That's all they're basically trying to say.
Once you get a determination in this court that followed due process, let's say I got a judgment against you for $1,000. How do I exercise that judgment?
You've got to go for a writ of attachment.
Now, which court, which process?
The same court that you were in. Once you get a judgment, now you got to go for the attachment.
Well, let's say this is a community established court.
Okay, then they have to have a writ. Well, you have to say, now I've gotten the judgment against you. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to file a writ of attachment, and I'm going to go for a writ of attachment, and then you're going to have, it's usually here in Virginia, it's like I think 14 or 21 days to explain why the writ of attachment should not be executed upon you, or certain terms and conditions in which you'll accept the writ of attachment. Like, I'll be glad to take the garnishment or the attachment, but if you take more than $300 a month, you'll cause me harm. Please only take $300. So sometimes you have a hearing, or sometimes there's hearings for the writ of attachment. Most people don't bother asking when they get a garnishment attached to them, like especially with IRS or something like that. People are like, I say to them, why, when you got the garnishment, did you not ask for a hearing on the garnishment? And they're like, no. It's like, why not? If there was a garnishment, why didn't you immediately ask for a hearing? It's like, well, I didn't know I could. It's like, okay, well, you can. If there's a garnishment, all you have to do is say, I require a hearing upon this garnishment because what the court granted, say to the IRS or something like that, is causing I am in great harm, and I require a garnishment hearing. And then you get the garnishment you make a proposal to the court and say, this is what I can afford. Anything else will cause me harm. But people forget that very simple step. And then, like I said, to finish up, say nobody bothers to answer, which nobody ever does. And then the sheriff actually goes, since nobody ever, for the writ of attachment, all you do is have the court clerk. It's basically like a default judgment because the person failed to appear. You go to the court clerk and say, they failed to answer. They failed to, challenge the writ of attachment. Can you witness that the 21-day period is over? Yes. Now, can you have the sheriff's department go execute it? And then the sheriff's department, that's their duty. Then she'll pass it along to the sheriff's department, and she'll execute the writ. And he'll execute the writ, not she. She will pass it along. The courts don't execute anything. They don't collect a dime from you. You've got to get the sheriff's department to go help you.
Right. So the sheriff's door, when you go to some counties, the sheriff's door, they usually put this big sign on their door, executioners.
That's right. That's what they are.
Yep.
They execute judgments. That's exactly what they do.